The car stopped in the back seat and the driver started the car and asked, "Where to?" Ethan sat down and gave the address of his former home. Liam had been to Ethan's adoptive parents' house a few times and knew the way. It was not yet 10 o'clock when they arrived downstairs. This community was mostly locals, and with the new year approaching, the lights were on in thousands of homes at this hour. With the occasional sound of television, the clatter of mahjong tiles, and the laughter of children. The car stopped directly at the entrance of the building, and Liam got out but didn't move. A glance in the rearview mirror confirmed that another car was following closely behind, parked not far away. He took out a cigarette, lit it, and held it between his lips as he pulled out his phone and made a call, speaking a few words. The door of the car behind them opened, and two tall, sturdy men ran towards him. "Mr. Payne," the two bodyguards said, bowing their heads respectfully. This time, Liam did not lose his temper. He removed the cigarette and slowly exhaled a cloud of white smoke. He told them the apartment was on the second floor, the one on the left belonging to the family he had mentioned, and that he wanted his $10,000 back. It had to be recovered in full that night. The two bodyguards acknowledged and quickly ran into the building. Gary hadn't been home for days, and Sharon had gone out after dinner. At this moment, only Kevin was at home. He had turned off the lights and was watching an adult film in his room. His eyes were fixed on the pale bodies on the screen, his own body squirming restlessly. Just as he was about to find release, someone knocked on the door. Kevin thought it was Gary returning. Gary often forgot his keys and would come home drunk in the middle of the night, his knocking an infuriating disturbance. But previously, Ethan had always been there to open the door, so he never had to move. Kevin reluctantly paused the movie. He climbed out of bed, his recent weight gain causing his whole body to jiggle. His room was very warm with the air conditioner on, so he was only wearing a short-sleeved shirt when he went to open the door. The moment he opened it, a shiver ran down his spine from the cold. Sharon, afraid Ethan would benefit from it, had never installed an air conditioner in the living room. The knocking continued, but Kevin first went back to his room to grab a jacket. Only after putting it on did he come out, yawning, pretending to have just woken up. He opened the door, and the word "Dad" was forming on his lips when it got stuck in his throat. Two tall, unfamiliar men stood before him. Kevin, being overweight but not tall, only came up to the bodyguards' chests. He was a little scared, his voice much quieter. "Uncles, who are you looking for?" One bodyguard, whose head almost touched the top of the doorframe, looked inside and saw no one else. He asked if his last name was the one they were looking for. Kevin tightened his grip on the doorknob, wanting to close the door but not daring to. "Yes." The bodyguard asked again where his parents were. "They weren't here." The bodyguard entered the house directly. "Call them. Tell them to come back immediately." Kevin didn't dare to say another word. He ran back to his room, threw back the covers and grabbed his phone. His hands trembled as he exited the video and dialed Sharon's number. "You can't sue now?" Sharon's face was full of disbelief. "Why can't I sue? I raised Ethan for 13 years and he just runs off. Any court would rule in my favor." The lawyer was speechless. He explained that her adopted son was only 18, still a student, while both she and her husband were in their prime and capable of earning a living. They had not lost their ability to support themselves and did not meet the criteria for claiming support payments. Sharon was dissatisfied. She complained about how difficult it had been to raise him from his infancy. She didn't care about the law. She just wanted the lawyer to write it up. She was determined to sue Ethan after the new year. The lawyer took out the contract. He said she could sue, but he had to be clear that he wasn't confident of winning, and she would have to pay half the legal fees up front. Hearing about the money, Sharon felt a pang of reluctance. But Ethan had really scared her last time. The talk of domestic violence and abuse had sent her running to a small-time lawyer in the neighborhood, who confirmed that there were precedents for such cases. She had felt that lawyer wasn't professional enough and had found a new one who supposedly specialized in support payment cases. There was still almost $500,000 at stake. She would not let Ethan have it all to himself. Just as Sharon was about to bargain, her phone rang. Seeing it was Kevin, she answered with a smile. "Son." She had just begun when Kevin interrupted her in a low voice. "Mom, come back quickly. There are 2 men here looking for you. I'm so scared by myself. Come back quickly." Sharon left without even hanging up the phone. The lawyer, speechless, put away the contract, wondering what kind of person would try to sue for support payments in their 40s. The lawyer's office wasn't far from their home, and Sharon ran the whole way, panting. Ethan, who had just gotten out of his car, saw Sharon running into the community. He pulled on his hat and mask, lowered the brim, and followed at a leisurely pace. Kevin was the apple of Sharon's eye. She ran until she was out of breath, never stopping all the way home. When she entered the house, Kevin was standing obediently against the wall, clutching his phone. 2 tall men in trench coats were sitting on the sofa. Sharon rushed forward to hug Kevin, eyeing the bodyguards warily. "What do you want?" Seeing that she was alone, one of the bodyguards frowned and stood up. "Where's your husband?" Sharon was suspicious. "He's not here. Are you looking for him? It's the same if you can make the decisions." The other bodyguard kept looking at his watch, afraid that Liam would get angry waiting. He got straight to the point. "You failed to do what you were paid for. My boss wants his $10,000 back." Hearing $10,000, Sharon's heart sank. She became flustered. "Your boss? Is it Mr. Payne?" The bodyguard nodded, and Sharon's last sliver of hope was shattered. That $10,000 was long gone. She had bought a bag for herself. Gary had taken several thousand, claiming it was for a business venture with a friend. With the remaining money, she had paid a hefty application fee for a private middle school for Kevin, as the local schools were not good. With anyone else, Sharon would have thrown a tantrum and denied everything, claiming she had no money to give. But she had seen what Liam was capable of and knew he was not someone she could afford to cross. She forced a smile. "Gentlemen, you must be mistaken. Mr. Payne is very fond of my son. Why would he want the money back?" The bodyguard was impatient. "Cut the crap. Mr. Payne has spoken. He wants the $10,000 back today, not a cent less. Otherwise," he looked around the apartment, "this place must be worth something. I'll get someone to appraise it right away." At the mention of the house, Sharon felt faint. The house was the last safety net for her Kevin. Could not be touched. She gritted her teeth. I'll pay. Sharon took out her phone. She had some savings, money for Kevin's college education, about $80,000. With the $10,000 or so that Ethan had returned, she could just about make up the $100,000. But when she logged into her account, Sharon was stunned. She moved closer in disbelief. The balance showed zero. What was going on? Sharon quickly checked the transaction details and almost fainted. Over the past period, money had been withdrawn in increments of $8,000 or $10,000, and the last of it was taken out yesterday. Only she and Gary knew the password and account number. Sharon bit her lip until it bled. It had to be that good-for-nothing gambling again. Without a doubt, the so-called business venture with a friend was also a lie. Gary had gambled all the money away. The bodyguard saw Sharon's face change and guessed she had no money. He urged her impatiently. I'll give you another half hour. If I don't see the money, we're selling the house to pay it back. Sharon had no choice but to call Gary. As expected, the scoundrel was drinking again, having gambled away every penny. Sharon cursed at him and finally broke down in tears. I told you not to gamble. Now she was at her wit's end. Find $10,000 right now. I don't care if you have to steal or rob. You can't touch my son's house. At this moment, Ethan walked into the building diagonally opposite. Looking at Liam's car, he unblocked Liam from his contact list. Half an hour later, Gary, reeking of alcohol, ran into the building carrying a small bag. A little while later, the two bodyguards came downstairs with the bag and walked to Liam's car, handing it in respectfully. In the darkness, a phone screen lit up. The phone was on silent, and the caller ID showed Liam. It rang for only 2 seconds and then disconnected. Liam had hung up almost instantly. The soft goodnight echoed in his mind. Ethan was probably asleep now. Liam opened his text messages and, after ing it several times, sent it. A message came in. Got the money back. Contact me when you wake up. Ethan put his phone back in his pocket and watched Liam's car drive away. He looked up at the balcony where he had lived for 13 years. The sounds of crying and cursing became clearer. You took out a high-interest loan. You did it again. You're trying to kill me and our son. Gary, his speech slurred, was also cursing. If I didn't get a loan, who the hell would lend you $10,000 on the spot? It's all your fault, you useless woman. My $500,000 are gone. My fault? You stole my money to gamble it all away, and now you blame me. I'll fight you. Then came the sounds of hitting and slapping, and Kevin's crying. The neighbors had long avoided this family like the plague, so no one came to intervene. This wasn't the first time Gary had taken out a high-interest loan. Ethan remembered it clearly. In his 3rd year of elementary school, Gary had borrowed $500 from a casino. It eventually turned into $20,000. On New Year's Day, a group of thugs came to their house to collect the debt. They took everything they could carry and gave Gary a severe beating. That year, Gary and Sharon fought every day, sometimes drawing blood. Kevin was so scared he wet his pants daily, filling the house with the smell of urine. In the end, they sold everything they could and borrowed from relatives and friends to finally pay off the debt. He wondered how much this $10,000 high-interest loan would snowball into. One house would probably not be enough. Ethan adjusted his mask and walked back the way he had come, melting into the night alone. Having gotten the $10,000 back, Liam was in a great mood. He even felt like driving straight to Ethan's building with the money and waiting downstairs for him to wake up, just to hear his first good morning. But Liam lowered his head and sniffed his collar. After days of searching for Ethan without a chance to shower, he had started to smell. The car slowed down, and Liam reluctantly changed direction. Now that he was starting over with Ethan, he could hear him say good morning and good night every day. There was no rush for today. Though he thought this, Liam was still very unhappy. When he drove into his community, the security guard saw him and hurried over, smiling. Mr. Payne, the cleaners found a pile of things at your door. You haven't been home, and we couldn't contact you, so we put them in the property management office for now. When would you like to pick them up? Liam frowned. What things? I have a picture. The security guard took out his phone, opened the photo album, and handed it to Liam. Look. Liam glanced at it, not recognizing it at first. Then he saw a piece of white ceramic and understood. Cody had thrown it away. It had happened a few times before. When Liam had made Cody unhappy, Cody would block him and return the gifts he had given him. This time, it was the same old trick. He remembered Cody calling him a few days ago. He had been frantically looking for Ethan and was in no mood to answer the phone. During this time, he had forgotten about Cody, even forgetting that Cody had a crush on Julian. His mind was completely occupied by Ethan. He didn't know when it started, but the time he spent thinking about Ethan had far surpassed the time he spent thinking about Cody. The image of the young man crouching in the stairwell stroking a stray cat and walking in the snow with an umbrella switched back and forth with Cody's image in Liam's mind. After a moment, Liam said nonchalantly, "Throw it away." The security guard was very surprised. He had heard from the property management office that the items were worth several $100,000. His mouth fell open. "What did you say?" "Throw it away. In the trash." Liam stepped on the gas and drove off. It was midnight when Ethan got home. The temperature had dropped, and the room was freezing. Ethan was frozen stiff. He looked at the radiator against the wall, took off his hat and mask, hung his coat behind the door, changed his shoes, and turned on the radiator. Warm air blew from the vent. Ethan squatted in front of it for a while, and his limbs gradually warmed up. In this short time, he planned his schedule for the next day. It was New Year's Eve, and he wanted to go to the community center to bring some New Year's gifts for the children. After the new year and the start of school, he would have less time to visit. Once his hands had fully regained feeling, Ethan took a change of clothes and went into the bathroom to shower. While showering, he also washed the new clothes he had been soaking. He wrung them out thoroughly and hung them on the shower curtain rod. Changing into clean loungewear, Ethan came out of the bathroom, drying his wet hair. The small space had been warmed by the radiator, and it was not cold to walk barefoot. Ethan was a little hungry. He went to the kitchen and cooked a bowl of pasta, just a small portion. He ate it in the kitchen, and while washing the bowl, he noticed that the few succulents on the windowsill were still thriving after several days of his absence. One of them, a haworthia, looked like a real lotus flower, with fleshy, translucent petals. Ethan watered them, dried his hands, and left the kitchen. His hair was half dry. Having just eaten, Ethan read for a while before turning off the radiator and going to bed. The next day, Ethan slept in for half an hour, getting up at 6:30. He didn't cook breakfast at home. After washing up, he changed and went out. He bought an egg and cheese sandwich and a cup of coffee from a street vendor at the community entrance and walked to the subway station. He finished his breakfast just as he arrived, wrapped up the trash, threw it in a bin, and entered the subway. His destination was a bookstore. He was the first customer when it opened. Ethan carefully selected many books suitable for children: fairy tales, fables, history, and storybooks. He had always loved reading as a child but had no money to buy books. He would hang around recycling centers and find many secondhand books at low prices. Sometimes, when business was good, the owner would let him search through the scraps for free. The total came to just over $100. The owner, seeing his tall, thin frame, kindly asked, "Let me help you carry these to your car." Ethan smiled politely. "I can manage, thank you." Carrying several large bags of books was indeed a bit heavy, and it was inconvenient to take the subway. This time, Ethan walked to the roadside and hailed a taxi to the Rainbow Bridge Youth Shelter. As Ethan was approaching the shelter, Liam's car pulled up in front of his building. After getting out, Liam was about to walk away but went back to the rearview mirror to adjust his collar before walking into the building with the $10,000. He knocked for a long time with no response. Liam looked at his watch. It was 9:30, and he was still sleeping. He patiently dialed Ethan's number. The phone rang for a long time before it was answered. Before Ethan could speak, Liam asked, "You're not home?" The apartment was completely silent. Ethan's voice was very faint. No. Liam's expression changed slightly, but he still didn't lose his temper. Didn't you see the text I sent last night? I saw it. Liam's good mood instantly plummeted. Are you still angry? Ethan was non-committal. He only said calmly, I have something to do. He hung up. Switching his phone to silent, Ethan put it in his pocket and carried the books into the classroom. The children were all in their dorms or on the playground, so the classroom was empty. Against the back wall was a simple bookshelf with some books, but the selection was limited. Ethan took out the new books and arranged them neatly by category. Mrs. Gable passed by. She glanced into the classroom and, seeing someone inside, took a closer look. Realizing it was Ethan, she changed direction and came in with a smile. Ethan, you're here. I thought you wouldn't be back until after the new year. As she got closer, she saw the large pile of books. She looked at Ethan and couldn't help but sigh. You're buying more books. Are you managing all right? Ethan replied politely, if I wasn't, I wouldn't be buying them. A look of affection appeared in Mrs. Gable's eyes. She wiped the back of her hand on her apron and squatted down to help. As she organized the books, she said, by the way, after the new year, a big amusement park has invited the children from our shelter to visit for free. Mrs. Gable's face was full of smiles. The children are all so excited. They've never been to an amusement park before. Ethan, organizing the books, grunted to show he was listening. Mrs. Gable continued, I asked about the time. It's on a Saturday. You should go too. We'll need several people to lead the groups, and the children all said they want to be in your group. Besides, it's an employee benefit and you're one of us now. It would be a waste not to go. It's supposed to be the biggest amusement park in the country, really fun. Some of the books were shrink-wrapped. Ethan carefully tore off the plastic before placing them on the shelf. I'll see then. Mrs. Gable suddenly turned her head. Have you been in touch with Ms. Jacobs these past few days? She hasn't been here for a few days. She called a few days ago to take leave, saying she wasn't feeling well and would be back after the new year. It's the first time in all these years. Ethan's movements paused for a very brief moment before he continued organizing the books. He worked at the shelter until the afternoon, finishing his last day before the new year, and then went home. In the afternoon, it started snowing lightly again. Fortunately, it was dry snow, so there was no need for an umbrella. Ethan hadn't brought one today. He remembered there was a flower shop not far from the subway station. He quickened his pace, afraid the shop would close. It was almost New Year's, and everyone was busy heading home. From a distance, he saw the lit-up flower shop. Even so, Ethan started to run, cutting his travel time in half. He arrived at a large flower shop with a wide variety of flowers. The bright fluorescent lights made the shop look like it was springtime, with all the flowers in bloom. The shop owner was taking inventory. It would be especially busy tomorrow, New Year's Day. She had planned to close today, but thinking it was cold and late and there were no customers anyway, she let her employee go home early without closing the shop. She didn't expect that after a while of doing accounts, she would look up to see a boy so beautiful he looked like a doll standing in front of the gladioli. There were several colors of gladioli. Ethan glanced at each one. Red, blue, purple, yellow, white, and light pink. He didn't remember his mother's preferences. He turned to the owner and smiled. Hello, I'd like a bouquet of gladioli with all the colors. The owner had been about to say the shop was closing and to come back tomorrow, but Ethan was too handsome. She put down her pen, walked out from behind the counter, and confirmed again. A mix of all the colors? They might not look good together. A faint smile touched Ethan's lips. It's okay. The owner picked out a few stems of each color. As she was about to use beautiful wrapping paper, Ethan stopped her. Just wrap them simply. And I'll also take a bouquet of chrysanthemums, white and yellow. The owner was a bit puzzled. It was rare to have chrysanthemums in the house for the new year, but the shop had them in stock, so she nodded. She simply wrapped the gladioli in newspaper and then did the same for the chrysanthemums. Flower prices had all gone up for the new year. A bouquet that usually cost a few tens of dollars was now over 100. Ethan paid and left with the 2 bouquets. The subway was already empty. For a long stretch, the usually crowded cars had only Ethan in them. Everyone had gone home for the new year. Only when passing through the city center did a few more people get on. The familiar station. Not far from the exit were the headquarters of the Vance Corporation and the coffee shop. Ethan freed a hand and took out his phone to log into his Messenger app. His chat with Julian was still at their last conversation. He opened Julian's profile. Julian didn't post updates, but his feed was flooded with shares from a mutual contact. Suddenly, Ethan's gaze flickered and stopped on Cody's latest post from half an hour ago. The picture was of an exquisite gift box with the caption, "Downstairs from him." Ethan had seen the gift box before. It contained the tie Cody had bought for Julian. In the lobby of the Vance Corporation building, the front desk receptionist, who was about to go off duty, smiled politely once again. "I'm sorry, Mr. Vance does not know a Mr. Reed." Cody pushed up the brim of his cap, his tone urgent. "No, Mr. Reed really knows Mr. Vance. Could you please call and confirm again? This is a New Year's gift from Mr. Reed for Mr. Vance." During the holidays, countless people sent gifts to their Mr. Vance. The receptionist understood this well. She showed an apologetic smile. "I am truly sorry. I have confirmed with the secretary's office. They indeed do not know this Mr. Reed. You should return it to the sender." Cody had found a delivery uniform and was pretending to be a courier. "Pretty lady, please do me a favor. This is my last delivery of the day." Cody tried his charm, raising his hand to promise. "I promise I'll be right back down after delivering it." The receptionist shook her head with a smile. "I'm afraid that's not possible. Please leave." The receptionist was unyielding. Cody bit his lower lip and suddenly ducked his head and ran inside. He jumped over the card scanner. It was after hours and the security guards were changing shifts. The receptionist didn't expect him to burst in. Cody had a clear target. He quickly ran to Julian's private elevator hall, frantically pressing the button. Before the receptionist could catch up, the elevator doors opened. He rushed in, pressed the top floor button, and repeatedly jabbed the close button. He had found out before coming that Julian's private elevator was on the left and did not require a card. The receptionist ran over, but the elevator was already ascending. She was on the verge of tears. Julian hadn't left work yet. If someone broke in, she would likely lose her job. She ran back to the lobby, anxiously calling for security. The elevator moved incredibly fast and soon reached the top floor. Cody held the gift box, his heart pounding louder than the sound of the elevator doors opening. He was nervous even before seeing Julian. Stepping out of the elevator, he found himself in a clean, bright, and silent corridor. The secretarial staff had all gone home. Only the CEO's office at the end of the hall was lit. With each step closer, Cody's heartbeat became clearer. "Don't be nervous." Cody adjusted his breathing, his ears turning red. At the office door, Cody nervously adjusted his collar. Even though he was currently disguised as a courier, he wanted to appear his best in front of Uncle Julian. "Knock, knock." He held his breath and knocked. The next moment, he heard a voice that made his heart flutter. "Come in." Cody's breath caught. His fingers trembled as he pushed open the heavy door. His field of vision gradually widened, and the figure in the distance became clearer. Behind the desk, Julian was working on a document, his head slightly bowed, his focus on the papers. The cold fluorescent light fell on his sharp, distinct jawline, like a cold scalpel. Cody stood frozen at the door, his chest feeling as if it would burst. His heart was racing, threatening to leap out of his body. Uncle Julian, so focused on his work, was so handsome. It was the last day before the holiday. Julian was making a final check of the reports. The visitor hadn't moved for a while. He looked up at the door and asked in a deep voice, "What is it?" Cody immediately came back to his senses, his face so red it was about to explode. His lips trembled, and he stuttered, There's a New Year's gift for you from a Mr. Reed." Julian's gaze returned to the report. "Put it on the table and leave." Cody's mind was blank. He stared at Julian without blinking, shuffling sideways like a crab towards the coffee table. "He's in here." At that moment, the receptionist and several security guards arrived. Finding that Cody had entered Julian's office, the guards sprinted with unprecedented speed, rushing in within seconds to restrain Cody and quickly escort him out of the office. As Cody struggled, the gift box fell to the floor. The receptionist, her face pale, ran forward to pick it up. She was sweating profusely, bowing repeatedly in apology. "I'm so sorry, Mr. Vance. I assure you, it won't happen again. We'll take him away immediately." Outside, Cody was still struggling, his face red. "Let go of me. What right do you have to grab me? Uncle Julian." His voice trailed off. The silence was broken. Julian frowned and closed the file. "What's going on?" The receptionist cursed Cody in her heart. If he made her lose her job, she would tear him apart. She quickly and briefly explained what had happened. After listening, Julian did not reprimand the receptionist. He only said in a deep voice, "Be more careful next time." The receptionist nodded repeatedly and was about to leave. She saw the gift box in her hand, the lid slightly ajar, revealing what looked like a tie. She turned back. "Mr. Vance, this gift." Julian looked at his watch. It was past 7. He put down the file. "Return it." The receptionist nodded and quietly closed the door as she left. Julian pulled out his chair, stood up, took his coat and left as well. He had given the driver the night off and drove himself. After leaving the parking garage, he first went to the supermarket. It was New Year's Eve tomorrow. He would have lunch with the Vance family at a hotel, and in the evening he would go to the semi-mountain villa to spend the new year with Lucia. The supermarket Julian went to was a members-only one. An apple sold for several dollars. Despite it being the new year, the supermarket was not bustling, with only a few customers. There wasn't much to buy. Lucia couldn't eat most things. Julian chose some fruits with high water content and low sugar, as well as a few boxes of king blueberries. Then he went to the snack section and bought some candies and nuts that were on the New Year's list, even though she might not eat them. Carrying several large bags, Julian returned to his downtown residence after a few days. The elevator doors opened, and all the lights in the house turned on instantly. It was unusually quiet. Julian glanced at the doormat. The young man's sneakers were gone. The beige slippers were placed neatly side by side. Ethan was gone. His dark eyes were deep, filled with an indescribable emotion. Julian changed his shoes and first went to the refrigerator to put things away. He opened it. The fruits and vegetables were all gone, as were the blueberries. Only the mineral water remained. Julian loosened his tie and put the newly bought blueberries back inside. Coming out of the kitchen, Julian was about to leave with the things he had bought for Lucia. As he passed the dining room, he turned back. He walked to the dining table, put down the items, moved the napkin box, and picked up the conspicuous red envelope. On the envelope was a light pink sticky note with 2 lines of perfectly neat, print-like handwriting, just like the young man's aura. Even his handwriting exuded a distant coldness. The content, however, was surprisingly warm. Mr. Vance, I ate everything in the fridge. It was delicious, thank you. The envelope is not to repay your medical expenses. I will include it in next month's installment. This is a lucky money gift to wish you a Happy New Year. Happy New Year. At the bottom was a simple smiley face. His thumb caressed the smiley face. Ethan's drawing skills were not bad either. Today's local news reported that tomorrow might be the first snowy New Year's Eve in nearly 100 years. Protecting the 2 bouquets of flowers in his arms, Ethan ran through the increasingly heavy snow from the subway exit into his building. A black Mercedes was parked across the building's entrance, its windshield and roof already covered in a thin layer of snow. Ethan's expression did not change. He gently patted the snow off his coat and slowly walked upstairs. His footsteps were light, and the motion sensor lights did not turn on. In the dim light, a red dot glowed intermittently at the door of the 3rd-floor apartment, a thick, heavy smell of tobacco permeating the air. Liam had smoked half a year's worth of cigarettes today. Though there was no light, he could clearly see every one of the young man's eyelashes. He took the cigarette out of his mouth and said, suppressing his anger, "I've been waiting for you all day." His voice triggered the light. The orange glow instantly illuminated Ethan. He was holding flowers, his hair still carrying the chill of the winter night. He continued to walk up the stairs at a leisurely pace. "That's your business." Liam shot up. His pupils constricted, and he almost crushed the cigarette between his fingers before throwing it away. He grabbed the bag hanging on the stair railing and flung it. A flurry of pink bills flew out of the bag, fluttering down the stairwell like snowflakes. "I pulled out your thorns overnight. What else are you not satisfied with?" Liam stared at the flowers in Ethan's arms, grinding his teeth. He was really angry. Ethan's phone had been unanswered all day. Afraid of missing him if he left, he had waited here all day without eating a bite, more afraid that something had happened to Ethan. And here he was, worried all day, only for Ethan to return with 2 bouquets of flowers from God knows who. Was it Finn or someone else? Liam's heart pounded furiously. His eyes, like 2 barrels of gunpowder, wished they could burn the 2 unsightly bouquets to ashes instantly. Several bills lay on the stairs. Ethan stopped, his expression calm. Even surgical scars need time to heal. "I'm not exceptionally gifted enough to act as if nothing happened in an instant." He looked up, meeting Liam's astonished gaze. "Can you let me pass? I've worked all day and I'm really tired." The dim light fell on Ethan's face, and indeed, he looked very tired. He had been at work, not on a date. Liam's anger vanished in an instant. He licked his lips and stepped aside. Ethan avoided the places where the money had fallen, never looking at Liam. After climbing the last few steps, he took out his key, opened the door, and was about to go inside and close it. Liam, quick-witted, stepped forward and blocked the door. Before Ethan could speak, his eyes flickered. "I won't come in. Just one more thing. I understand what you mean." His gaze was burning. "I'll give you time to heal. Similarly, you have to answer my calls." The words "will worry" swirled in his mind but never came out. Ethan closed the door at the same time. As the door was about to shut, his clear voice drifted out. "Please take your trash with you when you leave." Thud. The door closed. Liam subconsciously looked at the cigarette butts all over the floor. He took out his phone to call his bodyguards to clean up, then turned to look at the closed door. His expression changed several times, but he eventually squatted down to pick them up himself. After picking up for a while, he grabbed a few bills. His eyelids twitched automatically. The trash Ethan was talking about also included this money? After entering his apartment, Ethan took the flowers to the kitchen. He plugged the drain and filled the basin halfway with water. He removed the newspaper wrapping the flowers and carefully placed them in the water to soak. Then he started cooking his dinner. As the water boiled, Ethan put in 10 dumplings. He carefully replayed Liam's behavior in his mind. Apart from his emotions towards him, Liam's overall relaxed state, coupled with Ms. Jacobs's unexplained leave of absence, made Ethan lower his head. Staring at the white, plump dumplings floating to the surface, he was 90% sure Liam had hidden Ms. Jacobs away. A moment later, Ethan scooped up the dumplings. He made a garlic and vinegar dipping sauce and took his dinner to the living room. His fingers were stiff with cold. He glanced at the radiator, considered it, but decided to turn on the small space heater and place it by his feet for warmth. He quickly finished his dinner and cleaned up the kitchen. Ethan went into the bathroom to check on the clothes he had hung to dry. They were still quite damp. Without the radiator, he wouldn't be able to wear them tomorrow. He took the clothes back to the living room, turned on the radiator, and hung them on the rack designed for drying clothes on the radiator. It was almost 9 o'clock. He sat down to read. He finished reading around 12. His neck was very uncomfortable, so he didn't take a shower. He washed up briefly and went to bed. When he turned off the lights, it was so quiet he could hear the snow falling. It was going to snow heavily for the new year. At 6 the next morning, Ethan threw back the covers and got up. He first went to the kitchen to check on the flowers. The gladioli and chrysanthemums had been soaking in water all night and were blooming even more beautifully. A few buds had also opened their petals. Reassured, Ethan found some new paper and wrapped the 2 bouquets himself. It was a simple wrapping, and as the florist had said, the mix of all the gladioli colors was not particularly attractive. But that didn't matter. After wrapping the flowers, he quickly cooked a bowl of noodles, ate it, and then stepped on the scale. Still 155 pounds. His weight seemed to be stuck at this number, making it difficult to gain more. Ethan frowned slightly before going to take a shower. After showering, he used the landlord's extremely noisy hairdryer for the first time. He didn't know how to style his hair, just blew it until it was soft, and then used a small pair of scissors to trim his bangs himself. The radiator had been on all night, making the room as warm as summer. The clothes and pants that had been drying were also warm. Ethan put on a new sweater and pants, and then his new coat. He carefully tied his scarf and looked out the window. It had stopped snowing, so he didn't bring an umbrella. He left with the 2 bouquets in his arms. The entire stairwell was clean. When he walked out of the building, the ground was covered in a pristine blanket of white snow. No one had walked on it, leaving it perfectly untouched. As Ethan walked, he left a single line of footprints. This time, he didn't go to the subway station. He crossed the street and waited for the bus at the stop in front of the university. The university bus stop was a major one, serving almost all routes. Early in the morning, it was already crowded with people heading out for last-minute New Year's shopping. Buses came one after another. Half an hour later, unlike the other crowded buses, an empty one arrived late, with only the driver inside. The driver stopped symbolically and opened the doors. The crowd didn't move. Only Ethan got on. After paying his fare, Ethan walked to the back and sat by the window. The doors closed, and the bus set off again with Ethan as its only passenger. It would take 3 hours to reach the final stop. Ethan put on his headphones, which were silent. He held the bouquets and quietly watched the streetscape recede outside the window. At the same time, Cody came downstairs with messy hair. He was wearing pajamas. He went into the kitchen, got a glass of ice, and then poured a large glass of soda, tilting his head back to gulp it down. His mother came in and saw him, chiding, "Drink less soda. It's not good for you." Cody's eyes were barely open. Yesterday, he had been thrown out by the Vance Corporation's security guards. He hadn't managed to give Julian his New Year's gift and had been fuming all night, only falling asleep towards dawn. He mumbled, "I just want to drink soda." He put down the glass, which now only contained ice, and was about to go back to his room to sleep when his mother asked from behind him, "What do you want for New Year's Eve dinner?" "No more king crab. You eat it every day, your body can't take it." At that moment, Leo also appeared. He was also in pajamas, leaning against the doorframe with his arms crossed, a smile on his face. "Let's have some poached chicken. It's been a while." Cody yawned. "I hate chicken. Use sunflower chicken." Leo came forward and ruffled his hair, his eyes full of laughter. "Last time we ate out, didn't you say the sunflower chicken was delicious? I had someone get a few yesterday." Cody opened his eyes, his pupils still drowsy. "Did I?" He couldn't remember. Another set of footsteps approached. It was the eldest son, Alex. He had been on a business trip and had only arrived home late last night. Alex was wearing loungewear and silver-rimmed glasses. He had a gentle demeanor, and being 2 years older than Leo, outsiders who didn't know them often mistook him for the second son. "Big brother." Cody was instantly awake. He went forward and gave Alex a brief hug. "You're finally back. I missed you so much." Alex patted his back and smiled as he let go. "Did you miss me or my gifts?" Leo chimed in, "Definitely the gifts." Cody grinned. "I missed both. Where are they?" "I'll go get them now. They're still in the suitcase. I'll give them to you tonight." Their mother watched her 3 sons getting along harmoniously, her eyes overflowing with smiles. At this moment, Alex suddenly changed the subject. "Cody, you found your biological brother. Why don't you invite him over for a reunion dinner tonight?" Their mother had had the same idea for a while. Yes, I was just about to say that, but I got distracted." "That's right, Cody. Give Ethan a call and ask him to come for dinner." Cody suddenly fell silent. The last time Ethan came to their house, everyone had liked him very much, and he was still angry. Ethan wouldn't even help him find out the brand of a shampoo. He had searched for a long time and still couldn't find it. Hearing the suggestion to invite Ethan, Leo first looked at Cody. Seeing his sulky expression, he immediately said, "He has his own family. What would it look like for him to have New Year's Eve dinner at our house?" Cody had been about to explain that Ethan had cut ties with his adoptive parents, but the words died on his lips. New Year's was different. It was a time for family reunion. What if Ethan went back to his family for the holiday? Alex hadn't considered this. He was very disappointed. Dad said he's very good at chess. I was hoping to learn a few things from him. Their mother proposed another idea. "Then let's invite him on the second day of the new year. It's a day for visiting relatives and friends." Leo's gaze was still on Cody. Cody hesitated for a moment before muttering, "We'll see." Not wanting to continue the topic, he quickened his pace and ran off. After Cody went upstairs, Leo frowned and said unhappily, "Brother, if you have nothing better to say, Go talk to my sister. He was referring to Alex's fiancée, whom he was marrying next year. Alex had noticed something was amiss. He was very surprised. Is Cody not on good terms with his biological brother? Dad said that boy has a very good personality. It's not that Ethan is not good. It's that your little brother can't get over it in his heart. Their mother sighed softly. Let's give him some more time to adjust. 3 hours later, the bus stopped at the final station. Ethan got off. No one came here for the new year, and the area was even more deserted. Ethan walked forward for about 20 minutes and reached the cemetery. Ever since he started earning his own money, Ethan had come here every new year. The Zhao couple were only too happy for him to be out of the house during the holiday, so he wouldn't be eating their good food. They never asked where he went. A total of 208 steps led to his father's grave. The Yen family home had burned down completely, and the 2 grave plots had been arranged by the local community office. They were not next to each other. The solitary tombstone had only a simple name, date of birth and death, and no picture. Ethan placed the bouquet of chrysanthemums and said with a smile, "Dad, Happy New Year." Walking another 426 steps forward and turning left up 56 steps was his mother's grave. Ethan gently placed the gladioli, squatted down, and slowly stroked the 3 words Anna Yen. "Mom, I'm here." A faint shimmer of moisture appeared in the depths of his bottomless eyes. He curved his eyes into a smile. "Happy New Year." In his mind, a blurry image of a woman appeared. The sky was filled with terrifying flames, but her embrace was safe and warm. Ethan suddenly became talkative, telling her about his exam scores, his change of major, and that he had eaten a large bowl of noodles that morning. He told the tombstone in front of him every little detail. The wind blew harder, and the entire cemetery was deathly silent. The last bus of the day left at 3 o'clock. As the time approached, Ethan stopped talking. He leaned closer, closed his eyes, and kissed the tombstone. "Mom, you should sleep now. I'll come see you again next time. Don't worry about me. I'm doing very well now." He lowered his eyelashes. Yesterday, Cody had, as in the original plot, stormed the Vance Corporation headquarters. He could guess the outcome. The gift was not delivered, and he had been rebuffed. But his lovesick little brother would never learn his lesson. He was used to being spoiled by too many people. His life was too comfortable with no other worries. His mind was filled with nothing but Julian. After a long time, he spoke softly. "My brother is also doing well. You can rest assured." At the annual Vance family gathering, the entire clan surrounded Julian. Henry's face was long. That position should have been his. He put down his chopsticks and turned to say, "Liam." His voice caught. Liam was constantly looking at his watch, responding absently, "What?" Henry was not pleased. "What are you looking at your watch for? I'm you not to sneak away today. We've arranged to play cards with your Uncle Keith tonight, and his daughter will be there too." Liam wanted to go to the semi-mountain villa to spend the new year with Ms. Jacobs. "I'm not. Do you want to be disobedient like your uncle?" Christopher came over, his face stern. "I've met the Keith girl. She's pretty, well-educated, and well-mannered. Among the several prominent families, she's the only one worthy of you. You're canceling all your plans for tonight." With Christopher's words, Liam, however reluctant, did not dare to say more. He put down his hand in frustration. "I know." Christopher was finally satisfied. He looked at Julian in the distance, and his blood pressure rose again. He wouldn't even have New Year's Eve dinner with him. Ungrateful son. After finishing his socializing, Julian drove out of the city alone. He had only been driving for a short while when he suddenly pulled over to the side of the road. It was almost time for New Year's Eve dinner, and the city center was unusually deserted. Julian lit a cigarette. The smoke swirled around him, his dark eyes deep and unreadable, his emotions impossible to guess. Time passed, and the streetlights on both sides of the road lit up one after another. After finishing his cigarette, Julian lowered the car window to air it out. When he started the car again, he had changed direction. Ethan got off the bus. The driver immediately closed the doors and drove away, eager to get home for the reunion dinner. The streets that had been bustling in the morning were now so quiet that Ethan's footsteps were clearly audible. When he reached his community, the lights in the security booth were still on, but the guard had also gone home for dinner. The booth was empty except for the light. In the rows of buildings in the community, only a few windows were lit. There was still some snow on the road, crunching under his feet. Ethan walked very slowly. Firstly, the road was a bit slippery, and secondly, the community streetlights were practically useless. Around a corner was Ethan's building. He was carefully watching his step when suddenly, a pair of headlights lit up, a bright orange light piercing the darkness and paving a clear path to his feet. Ethan stopped and looked over. The car door opened, and a blurry figure got out. Then the person called his name. Ethan. The voice was very familiar. In the hazy glow, the man walked steadily towards Ethan, his tall figure gradually becoming clear. His long black coat was slightly open, revealing a simple, matching suit underneath. A beige cashmere scarf was draped around his neck, hanging naturally. It was Julian. Ethan had not expected Julian to appear on New Year's Eve. He was briefly stunned. Julian had already reached him. Julian's gaze fell on Ethan's face. Up close, the young man's complexion was even paler. Coming back to his senses, Ethan smiled politely. "Mr. Vance, are you here for something?" Julian's voice was deep. "There's a temporary job to offset your medical expenses." "Interested?" Ethan asked. Now? Ethan had a feeling this job was not simple. "Can I first ask what the job is?" "To accompany my mother." Julian's gaze was deep. "She's not in good health and has been recuperating in the mountains for years, rarely seeing people. The job is to make her happy. You'll be paid 3 times the market rate per hour." A photo he had seen at Julian's place flashed through his mind. So that was why Julian never had New Year's Eve dinner with the Vance family in the original story. Ethan was silent for a moment, then shook his head. "I'll pass." His dark eyes darkened slightly. Before Julian could speak, Ethan suddenly looked up, met Julian's gaze, and a faint smile appeared on his lips. "I would like to be a guest. Would it be all right if I joined you for a meal?" Ethan needed to go upstairs for a moment, and Julian waited for him downstairs. Watching the thin figure walk into the building, Julian took out his phone and dialed a number. The other end was slow to pick up. Lucia's hearing had been getting worse over the years, and it usually took some time for her to answer. Just as the ringtone was about to end, Lucia's voice came through. "Julian, are you almost here?" "No, I'm picking up a friend." Lucia was quite surprised. "Bringing a friend? That's a first." She smiled and nodded. "All right, I'll have them add a few more dishes. What does your friend like to eat?" "Homestyle food. Light, not too sweet." After a pause, Julian said, "He's young." Julian's emphasis made Lucia curious. "How young?" At that moment, the lights in the stairwell came on. Ethan came out of the building, and Julian's gaze followed him. "Teen." Ethan was carrying a paper bag. When he came out and saw Julian standing outside the car, with snow starting to fall again, he quickened his pace and ran towards him. "Mr. Vance, we can go now. Julian put his phone back in his pocket and walked to the back seat to open the door. Ethan was momentarily confused. Did he want him to drive? He didn't have a license. Julian didn't leave him in doubt for long. Get in. Then he returned to the driver's seat. He was driving himself. Ethan got into the back seat. The temperature inside the car was very high, like a different world from the outside. In front of him was the back of Julian's head, visible above the seat. Julian fastened his seatbelt and started the car. Ethan gently placed the paper bag on the floor by his feet. It contained the few succulents he was raising, a gift for Julian's mother. At this hour, all the shops were closed, and he couldn't buy any other gifts. Perhaps because it was too quiet in the car, Julian turned on the radio. It was a random station, with two comedians telling jokes in an exaggerated tone. Julian looked at the rearview mirror. In the mirror, the young man was sitting quietly. If you don't like it, I can change it to music. No need. The young man suddenly looked up at the rearview mirror. Listening to comedy on New Year's Eve is very festive. Julian looked away. The car left the community and drove for a while before he turned onto the highway. The car was filled with the exaggerated laughter of the comedians. He spoke again. Why didn't you continue to stay? I had things to take care of. It's more convenient at home. The car turned onto the highway, flanked by streetlights. Snow began to fall on the windshield, getting heavier. Didn't run into any crores? No. Ethan's eyes curved into a smile. They have to celebrate the new year too. Julian looked at the rearview mirror again and met the young man's clear eyes. Thank you, Mr. Vance. Julian's Adam's apple bobbed slightly. He nonchalantly looked away. You've already thanked me. This is for today. Ethan smiled. Actually, I was in a bad mood today. I'm very happy that you invited me to your home for the new year. Julian felt a slight urge to cough, but he suppressed it. Why were you in a bad mood? I was missing some people. Ethan finally looked away, turning to look out the window. There were intermittent flashes of streetlights, but most of the time it was silent darkness. On the radio, the comedy routine reached its climax, and the audience erupted in laughter. For the rest of the journey, neither of them spoke again. After getting off the highway, they drove for a while up the mountain. In the quiet mountains, only one place halfway up was lit. They stopped at the villa. The snow was heavier than in the city, falling in large flakes. Ethan closed the paper bag and got out of the car, walking up the steps. Julian lowered the car window halfway. Go inside first. I'll park the car. He drove to the garage. At the same time, the sound of a door opening came from behind him, and a light shone on the steps. A loving female voice said, "Hello, young man." Ethan turned around and saw an extremely thin woman. She was almost a pale skin stretched over a skeleton, wearing a thick hat and sitting in a wheelchair. She immediately overlapped with the woman in the photo. This was Julian's mother. Ethan bowed politely. "Hello, my name is Ethan Yen." Lucia beckoned. "Come closer." Ethan, not understanding, took a few steps forward and bent down to get closer to Lucia. Yes? Only then did Lucia get a clear look at Ethan. She smiled. "It suits your name." He was indeed young, 5 years younger than Liam. Her withered hand gently patted Ethan's shoulder. "Come in quickly, it's cold outside." Following her inside, the servant had already prepared guest slippers. The entire house was heated to a comfortable temperature. Ethan changed his shoes, took off his coat, and when he reached the living room, he took out his gifts one by one. "These are some small potted plants I've been raising. I hope you like them." There were 4 pots in total: a pink echeveria, a colorful sedum, a string of pearls, and a string of buttons, all planted in small white ceramic pots. Each one was thriving with life. Lucia was delighted. She picked up the pink echeveria, unable to put it down. How beautiful. I will take good care of it. Ethan was still holding the paper bag. The servant was about to take it, but Ethan shook his head with a smile. The servant returned the smile and did not move. The sound of a door closing came from the entrance. A moment later, Julian came in. Besides his coat and scarf, he had also taken off his suit jacket, wearing only a light brown striped shirt. He was unbuttoning his cuffs as he walked. Lucia held up the small potted plant. "Julian, look at the gift young Ethan gave me. Isn't it beautiful?" Julian looked at the pink echeveria. It was indeed beautifully raised. He took off his watch and glanced at the time. It was past 8. He placed it on the small side table storage tray and walked towards the dining room. "Let's eat." Lucia was still reluctant to put it down, turning it over and over in her hands for a while before finally setting it down. She suddenly winked mysteriously at Ethan. "I've also prepared a little gift for you. It's on the dining table." When they got to the dining table, Ethan found out that the gift was a dish: pineapple and shrimp fritters. The servant said with a smile, "This dish was personally made by Madame. The last time she cooked was 10 years ago." Lucia shook her head with a smile. "I didn't make all of it. I can't stand, so I just prepared the ingredients. I just mixed it at the end. The rest was done by the chef." She looked at Ethan. "Julian said you don't like things too sweet. This dish isn't sweet, it's sweet and sour." Ethan knew this dish. It was on the wedding menu for a friend's wedding. The method was simple, but the preparation was troublesome, requiring stuffing shrimp paste into sections of fried dough sticks one by one. It was especially popular with children. The other dishes were surprisingly not extravagant, all home-style. Asparagus in superior broth, braised pork with abalone, steamed beef ribs, stir-fried tea tree mushrooms with cucumber flowers, braised abalone with shrimp, coconut and pork rib soup, chicken baked with wine, ingot-shaped eggs, pan-fried lightly cured yellow croaker, braised spare ribs with chestnuts, and stir-fried Portunis crab with rice cakes. There was also a pot of mint and mung bean soup. The servant poured a glass, and Lucia served it to Ethan first. She looked him over. "Eat more meat, you're too thin." She used the serving chopsticks to place a large piece of beef rib on Ethan's plate. Ethan, however, was looking at the mint and mung bean soup. Except for his hometown, he had rarely seen mint added to mung bean soup. He picked up the glass and drank half of it in one gulp. Lucia spoke first. "Do you like it? This is how we make it in my hometown. It's very refreshing, perfect for summer and the new year." Ethan asked, "Is your hometown not in the capital?" "Not really. My ancestral home is in the south. But I was born with poor health and would get sick if I was in a car for more than half an hour, so I couldn't travel far." Lucia sighed softly. "I've never been able to go back. Julian has been there twice, though." Julian's maternal grandparents had passed away one after another, and their last wish was to be buried in their hometown. Julian had handled both funerals personally. Ethan picked up his chopsticks and was about to eat the beef rib when another pair of serving chopsticks placed something on his plate. It was a piece of fried dough stick filled with shrimp paste, followed by a piece of pineapple. Ethan looked up. Julian calmly withdrew the serving chopsticks. "I tried it. It's not too sweet." The last time at Julian's office, he had mentioned that the sweet bean sauce pork was too sweet. Ethan silently chewed on the beef rib, then picked up the fried dough stick. Coated in a dressing of salad and condensed milk, the sweetness was just right. The fried dough stick was crispy, and the shrimp paste was fresh and sweet. Combined with the sweet and sour pineapple, it was indeed appetizing. He helped himself to a few more pieces. After dinner, as was her usual habit, Lucia would prepare to rest. But she was exceptionally happy today and extended her time by 2 hours. She particularly enjoyed listening to Ethan speak. The young man's voice was clear and bright, with an unhurried calmness that was very comfortable to listen to. Ethan knew that Lucia had been recuperating in the mountains for decades and had little contact with the outside world. So he embellished some of his experiences from his part-time jobs and told them to her. Julian went to the kitchen and came out a little while later with a fruit platter. Lucia couldn't eat fruit after dinner. The platter was full of blueberries. Lucia was engrossed in listening. By the time she came back to her senses, it was almost midnight. Lucia whispered, "Another year has passed." Her voice was extremely low. Ethan didn't hear clearly. He leaned closer. "What did you say?" A smile appeared in Lucia's eyes. She gently took Ethan's hand, holding it with both of hers, her face full of affection. "I said there will be New Year's fireworks at 12 o'clock, for a full 10 minutes. There's an unobstructed spot in the garden. It's the best place to watch the fireworks. Every year, people want to pay to come up and watch." She patted Ethan's hand and withdrew hers, smiling slightly. "I'm tired. I'm going back to my room to rest." Julian was about to help her to her room, but Lucia operated the wheelchair herself. "It's just a short distance. I can manage. You go and keep young Ethan company." Lucia went back to her room, and the living room became quiet. Outside the French windows, there was already a faint sound of activity. It was almost 12 o'clock. Julian walked towards the outside. "Let's go." Ethan stood up, picked up the paper bag, and followed Julian out. The snow outside had stopped. In front of the villa's garden was a large lawn with a waist-high fence. The wooden lattice was entwined with withered rose vines, overlooking the distant specks of light. It was a small town some distance from the foot of the mountain, with a small permanent population. But it had an annual New Year's fireworks show, and many citizens came from the city on New Year's Eve to watch. The sound of crunching snow came from behind him. Julian turned his head. Only a single light was on in front of the villa, and the garden was dimly lit. Ethan was wearing a coat, his scarf wrapped tightly. He was looking down at the path, walking slowly. His shoes were slippery. As Ethan was about to reach him, Julian looked away. The fence railing was covered in a thin layer of snow. He raised his hand and pushed the snow in front of him, all of it falling silently. His fingers were cold. He put his hand behind his back. At this moment, Ethan also arrived. But he did not lean on the fence, just stood next to Julian. He let out a light breath, turned his head, and smiled. "Mr. Vance, do you come here to watch the fireworks every year?" "No." Julian also looked back at Ethan. He was a few inches taller than Ethan and had to lower his head slightly. "I'm not interested in these things. What about you? Do you like them?" His eyelashes fluttered slightly. Ethan's eyes curved into a smile. "It's not about liking or disliking. Beautiful things are always pleasing to the eye." The scarf was wrapped up to his nose, covering half of his face, revealing only his clear, bright eyes. Julian did not look away. "Don't you find it fleeting?" The definition of fleeting is a human one. Ethan's eyes curved even more. Compared to time, life is also just a fleeting moment. Julian's gaze deepened. "Your answers always surprise me. Do they? Then I'm glad." Ethan smiled and turned his face back, grabbing the fence railing and looking at the distant lights. "It means I'm a unique person." Julian was silent for a moment, then also turned to look at the distance. Bang! In the distance, countless beams of light shot into the sky. It was 12 o'clock, the new year. The fireworks bloomed into a sky full of golden sparks, like flowers blooming, then falling like rain, illuminating the entire night sky like a grand, lingering golden rain. Buzz, buzz. The phone in his pocket vibrated at the same time. Every New Year's Eve, Julian's phone would receive more than 99 blessing messages per second. But it was the first time for Ethan's phone. He took it out. There were several messages, from the coffee shop manager, the community center, and an unknown number. Ethan, Happy New Year. The next second, another one came in. Sorry, typo. It's Happy New Year. Ethan didn't reply immediately. He put his phone back. Julian hadn't been looking at his messages, but a call suddenly came in. He took out his phone. It was from a friend. Julian's peripheral vision was still on Ethan. The young man was focused on the fireworks, the sky full of sparks casting a soft, fluorescent glow on his cheeks. He didn't notice the call disconnect at that moment, and another call came in. Julian answered. What is it? Cody instantly shot up from his bed. As it approached midnight, he had feigned a stomachache and gone back to his room to be the first to call Julian with New Year's greetings. He hadn't had high hopes. Every message he sent to Julian was like a stone sinking into the sea, never receiving a response. But he hadn't expected this. He had answered. Uncle Julian had answered his call. Cody also heard the sound of fireworks from the receiver. Was Uncle Julian watching the fireworks? The family staff were also setting off fireworks in the backyard, just below Cody's window. He covered the receiver and cheered excitedly, then ran barefoot to the French windows and pulled open the curtains, looking at the brilliant fireworks outside. Rounding up, he was watching the fireworks and chatting with Uncle Julian. Cody pressed his hand to his pounding chest, took several deep breaths, and finally uncovered the receiver, his lips curling into a smile. Uncle Julian, it's me. Beep, beep, beep. Julian had already hung up. Cody's smile froze. What the? He quickly redialed, but someone else was constantly calling Julian, and the line was always busy. Cody had to give up. His face fell, and he threw his phone away, kicking at the air in frustration. But looking at the brilliant and beautiful fireworks outside the window, he became happy again. Uncle Julian had answered his first call of the new year. His cheeks were burning hot. He clasped his hands together and made a sincere wish to the fireworks outside the window. Next year on this day, I pray that Uncle Julian and I will be alone anywhere, just the two of us, watching the fireworks together. The other person hadn't spoken, so Julian hung up. He saw it was an unknown number, not his friend. Julian casually added it to his block list, switched his phone to silent, and put it back in his pocket. Just then, Ethan next to him called out, "Mr. Vance." Julian turned, and a pot of crystal clear, jade-like, translucent lotus flowers appeared before him. Ethan was holding the small potted plant with one hand. His scarf had been pulled back down to his neck, revealing his whole face. His pupils reflected the intermittently bright fireworks. Seeing Julian look over, a warm smile bloomed on his lips. Happy New Year. Julian's pupils contracted sharply, and his Adam's apple moved violently. A moment later, he took the potted plant. It looks like a lotus. What's it called? Haworthia, Ethan said with a smile. It only needs to be watered once every 10 days. Keep it in a cool, ventilated place, away from direct sunlight and rain. At this moment, the fireworks were nearing their end. The night sky, which had been brilliant for 10 minutes, was about to return to calm. Ethan stretched his arms slightly, and was about to go back to the villa with the empty paper bag when something stopped him. In the dim light, it looked like an envelope. Looking closer, it was a red envelope. The one he had left at Julian's place? Ethan did not take it. "Mr. Vance, it's a New Year's red envelope for you." Julian looked at him deeply. "It's not much, just for good luck." Only then did Ethan take it. He put it in his pocket, looked up, and his eyes curved into a slight smile. "Thank you, Mr. Vance. This is the first red envelope I've ever received." The servant had already prepared the guest room on the second floor. It was not large, but it was warmly decorated and felt like home. Most importantly, there was a floor-to-ceiling wooden bookcase filled with books. A quick glance revealed many out-of-print books. Ethan didn't touch them. He quietly looked at the titles for a while before going into the bathroom. He was about to take a shower when he touched his pants pocket and felt the red envelope. He had taken off his coat downstairs and put the envelope in his pants pocket. The red envelope Julian had prepared was similar to the one he had bought, a standard one. He opened it and took out a not-too-thick stack of bills. As Julian had said, it was not much, just for good luck. $888. All were crisp new bills. Ethan brought them closer and sniffed lightly. They had a very new ink smell, which was very pleasant. A few walls away, Julian was sitting at his desk. The room was lit only by a desk lamp. The translucent leaves of the plant were tinged with a faint orange glow. His long fingers slowly rotated the small flower pot. After a long time, Julian put down the pot, pulled out his chair, stood up and walked into the bathroom. As the hot water cascaded down from above, the image of the young man's smiling face flashed through his mind, along with the words "Happy New Year." Julian closed his eyes. The hot water slid over his hard, prominent Adam's apple, and like a sigh, 3 words escaped his lips without a sound. Ethan Yen. Waking up from a dreamless sleep, Ethan saw a faint light seeping through the gap in the curtains. He reached for his phone. It was already 8 o'clock. It was the first time he had woken up so late. He had 2 missed calls, one from 2 minutes ago and one from just now. The next second, Liam called again. Liam had attended a card game last night, which was actually a blind date. He was not interested, but the other party had taken a liking to him and kept talking and drinking with him. In previous years, he would always be the first to call Cody on New Year's Day. This year, he had missed it, coming home drunk and sleeping until now. The first thing he did when he woke up was to call, but he dialed Ethan's number. Liam listened to the ringing, his chest heaving violently. Since last night, he had been looking forward to hearing Ethan's voice. However, the ringing stopped, and the call went unanswered. Liam's face darkened. He was about to call again when another call came in. It was the butler from the resort villa. Liam's expression hardened as he answered, "Speak. Young master, could you come over? Madam is still refusing to eat." The butler complained, "We've tried everything. She had a brief fainting spell this morning, and we had to give her a nutritional injection. We're out of options." Liam threw back the covers and got out of bed, walking quickly out of the room. "Keep an eye on her. I'll be there soon." When Ethan came out of the washroom, his phone was quiet. It was about time. He replied to the New Year's messages, except for Liam's, and then dialed Mr. Fong's number. Mr. Fong was the old man who had taught him how to fish. Mr. Fong was especially happy to receive Ethan's New Year's call. Thank you, young man. Happy New Year." Ethan smiled. "Happy New Year to you too. May you never go home empty-handed from fishing this year." This was Mr. Fong's favorite saying, "Never go home empty-handed," meaning never fail to catch a fish. Mr. Fong immediately beamed. Haha, I'll take your good wishes. Let's go fishing together when the weather gets warmer. It's been too cold this winter, and my family won't let me go out. I'm about to go crazy. If you find a good fishing spot, you must tell me right away. Ethan agreed to everything. After chatting for a few more minutes, Mr. Fong hung up. Putting his phone back in his pocket, Ethan opened the door and went downstairs. The corridor was quiet. The servant had mentioned that Julian's room was also on the second floor. After a quick glance ahead, Ethan went downstairs without a sound. The servants didn't have to get up early on New Year's Day, so the first floor was also quiet, as if no one was awake yet. Ethan walked into the living room, and his gaze swept over the French glass doors. He saw Lucia. Lucia was alone in the garden. After a slight pause, Ethan walked to the glass doors and opened them silently. As soon as he opened them, Ethan stopped in his tracks, momentarily lost in thought. Lucia was singing. Green bricks with black tiles, a white horse on new mud, mountain flowers and banana leaves dye the red scarf in the twilight. Raindrops fall from the eaves, smoke rises from the kitchen chimneys. Where are you who has been through so much? Searching and seeking, cold and desolate. The moon sets and the crow cries, a crescent moon in a lonely well. The melody was gentle and winding, like a babbling brook flowing quietly through spring, gradually merging with the soft words in his memory. Faded memories suddenly became vivid. Ethan remembered the next few lines. Bits and pieces, drop by drop, flowers in dreams, green grass in dreams. Long hair creates ripples, a white cloth on a stone pier. A river sprite poles a long boat across the ancient ford. Raindrops fall from the eaves, smoke rises from the kitchen chimneys. Where are you who has been through so much? Baby? Anna Yen held him, gently kissing his cheek. This is called Pingtan. When you and your brother are a few years older, Mommy and Daddy will take you back to our hometown to listen to the authentic Pingtan. But he had never had the chance to grow up. And they had never had the time to take him back to their hometown to drink mint and mung bean water and listen to authentic Pingtan. Ethan quietly watched Lucia's back. After a while, Lucia realized someone was there. She turned around and was surprised to see Ethan. You're up so early? It's a rare holiday you could have slept in. Ethan walked over. He squatted down by the wheelchair, his hand gently resting on the armrest, and looked up slightly. I'm not tired. Your Pingtan is beautiful. A hint of red appeared on Lucia's pale face. You heard it? Julian's grandmother taught me. She was the one who sang it well. Lucia was lost in reminiscence, then came back to her senses. She met Ethan's still smiling eyes, and her heart warmed. She reached into her pocket and slowly took out a red envelope. She placed it in Ethan's hand. Happy New Year. Don't refuse, she said with a beaming smile. This is lucky money. Julian gets one too. Just as Ethan was about to reply, his phone rang again. This time it was Cody. In the morning, his mother had mentioned again inviting Ethan over on the third day of the new year. On the fourth, we have to visit your cousin, and for the next few days, your father and brother have social engagements. His mother said tactfully, on the first 2 days, you young people will want to go out and have fun, so only the third day is available. Unexpectedly, Cody agreed readily. Okay. Julian had answered his call last night, and he was in a great mood now. Let alone inviting Ethan over, he would have agreed even if they had asked him to come and live with them. The call connected, and Cody's voice was filled with joy. Brother, come to my house for dinner the day after tomorrow. Ethan replied faintly, okay. Cody wanted to say more, but Ethan added, I have something to do. I'll contact you the day after tomorrow." He hung up. Putting his phone away, he saw that the red envelope had been tucked into his pocket. He looked up and met Lucia's loving eyes. Lucia was gaunt, her wrists and fingers frighteningly thin, her pale skin wrinkled into 1,000 furrows. But her touch on his head carried a nostalgic warmth. "Come again next year. I'll give you lucky money again." Julian entered the living room and saw Ethan squatting by the wheelchair through the glass door. He pushed the door open and first heard Ethan's voice. "Is this one a way Z peony?" In front of them was a 10-foot-tall peony tree. Lucia was very surprised. "Yes, it is. You know about flowers? I worked part-time at a nursery." Ethan was still squatting, looking at Lucia at eye level. The woman had been tormented by illness for years, and her lips were pale. When the season came, if there were flowers that didn't sell and were about to wither, the nursery owner would pick them and dry them to make lipstick. His expression was serious. "The process is very simple and it's all natural. When the peonies bloom this year, I'll come and make lipstick for you." He didn't have to wait until next New Year's. In April or May, he would come again. Lucia's surprise was evident. "Okay, besides peonies, I also have roses and monthly roses in my garden." Ethan listened attentively. He was so alert that it took him a while to realize someone was behind him. He didn't know how long Julian had been standing there. He was dressed casually, with a long cardigan over his loungewear. "Good morning," Ethan said first. "Good morning." Julian didn't come forward, standing behind the glass door. "Breakfast is ready." Ethan stood up and naturally placed his hands on the wheelchair handles. "I'll push you." Lucia didn't refuse. Her eyes crinkled in a smile. "Okay." Julian turned first and pushed the glass door open a little wider. The breakfast was varied and light. Lucia had a small appetite and put down her bowl after a small bowl of porridge. Julian and Ethan finished eating one after another. She said with a smile, "After breakfast, Julian has to go back to the company to handle some matters. Young Ethan, you should go back with him." She had heard Ethan's phone call and knew he had plans for the third day. Ethan's gaze was clear. "I can stay until the afternoon." Lucia gathered her shawl and shook her head with a smile. "I don't have much energy. I need to rest in my room after I digest my food." She glanced at Julian and took the initiative to turn her wheelchair. "You don't need to push me. Don't call me when you leave. I'll be asleep." The wheels rolled across the floor silently. Lucia's bedroom was not far from the dining room, and she quickly went inside and closed the door. In the dining room, Julian stood up and said, "I'll get changed." 10 minutes. Julian's 10 minutes were precise. He changed and came downstairs, and from the time he came down to the time they left, it was exactly 10 minutes. Ethan had walked a few steps towards the back seat when Julian had already opened the passenger door. Ethan suddenly looked at the ground. The snow had stopped last night, and it hadn't rained, so the ground was dry today. He understood. Last night, Julian had let him sit in the back seat to prevent slipping on the road. A driver would instinctively protect himself, making the passenger seat the most dangerous spot. After buckling his seatbelt, as they were driving out of the villa, Ethan suddenly asked, "Mr. Vance, you've been back to your hometown twice, right?" On the smooth downhill road, Julian drove slowly. "Yes." "Where is your hometown?" Ethan said politely, "I think we might be from the same town." Julian's gaze deepened. "You don't remember?" Ethan was very frank. "I was too young to have any impression. I only remember that my mother loved to cook mint and mung bean water and liked pingtan." He smiled faintly. "If I went back to my hometown, maybe..." He trailed off. "What came after maybe?" Julian replied, My grandmother's hometown is called 20 Bridges. Thank you. Ethan took out his phone and searched for 20 Bridges. It was a small coastal city in the south. In the spring, there were beautiful willows, peach blossoms, and pear blossoms. In the summer, you could go out to sea. It was over 600 miles from the capital, an hour and a half by plane. There was no high-speed rail, and the train took about 10 hours. Ethan put away his phone and turned to look out the window. In his peripheral vision, he saw the young man, unusually lost in thought. It wasn't until they were on the highway and then off it again that Julian spoke to wake him up. "Where are you going?" Ethan came back to his senses and turned to smile slightly. "If it's convenient, you can drop me off at home. If not, a subway station will do." Julian dropped him off at his building. On the second day of the new year, the community was still quiet. Ethan got out of the car and waved at Julian. "Goodbye, Mr. Vance." Julian looked at Ethan, and Ethan looked back at him. After a few seconds, Ethan went into the building. Knowing that he could no longer see Ethan's back, Julian rolled up the window and drove away. Inside, the small room was just as he had left it last night. Ethan hung up his coat, changed his shoes, and went into the kitchen. A little while later, he came out with a bucket of water, shouldered his fishing bag, and went out again. On the second day of the new year, the traffic in the city center was light, and Julian arrived at the Vance Corporation headquarters smoothly. The headquarters were closed for the new year, with only 2 security guards at the main gate. Seeing Julian, the guards were not surprised. They were only slightly puzzled when they saw him carrying a paper bag. Entering his office, Julian walked straight to his desk. The documents that needed to be processed were in his email. He put down the paper bag and turned on his computer to log in. After he was done, the sky outside was already dark. He leaned back in his chair, closed his eyes, and gently massaged his temples. Suddenly, he stopped and looked at the paper bag. After a few minutes of silence, he reached for it. He took out the Haworthia and placed it next to the computer, where the cube of light used to be. It had been a while since he had been to Tian Shan Reservoir. On the second day of the new year, the fishing spots were already full. Ethan found a corner, squatted down, and poured a whole bottle of his homemade bait into the water. He didn't cast his line. He set up his small stool and quietly watched the water until it was completely dark. A large number of slightly drunk fish floated to the surface. "Your bait is amazing." The uncle next to him was so envious his eyes widened. He came over. "Where did you buy it? Tell me about it." Ethan opened his bag, took out a bottle and gave it to him. He packed up his tools and left, without taking any of his abundant catch. The uncle unscrewed the cap, sniffed a few times and marveled, shouting enthusiastically at Ethan's retreating back. "Young man, let's fish together next time." Ethan didn't reply and walked into the night. It was now 7 in the evening. There were 12 hours until 7 the next morning. The next morning, Ethan called Cody promptly at 7. Beep, beep, beep. He waited with great patience. Finally, the call was answered. On the other end was Cody's hoarse and exasperated voice. "Brother, why do you always call so early? I'm still sleeping." The bus arrived, and the doors opened. Ethan got on while talking on the phone, dropping 2 coins with a crisp sound. "I'm on the bus." Cody seemed to have turned over, his voice soft and ethereal. "Whatever. I'm so sleepy. I'm going back to sleep." Hanging up. The call didn't hang up. The sound of even breathing could be heard from time to time. When Ethan arrived at the Reed family villa, Cody was still sleeping. His mother opened the door herself. Seeing Ethan, her eyes lit up, and she came forward to hug him. "Ethan, you're finally here." Then she saw the plastic bag Ethan was carrying. She sighed softly. You're a student with no income, yet you bring something every time you come. You're being too formal. Ethan smiled and opened the bag. They're just a few flower seedlings I bought by the roadside. They were a good deal. Seeing the seedlings, his mother immediately smiled and took the bag to look inside. Are these hydrangeas? She asked in surprise. I've been wanting some for a long time. Have you had breakfast? I'll go make you a bowl of dumplings. We just made them last night. We have all kinds of fillings. After you eat, we can go to the backyard and plant the seedlings. Yes, they're hydrangeas. Ethan didn't refuse. Do you have cabbage and pork filling? Yes. His mother carefully placed the seedlings by the shoe cabinet and turned to say to Alex, Alex, you entertain Ethan. I'll go make the dumplings. Alex was in the back. It was his first time meeting Ethan. The young man had a clean and polite demeanor, and he had a good impression of him. He smiled and handed over a prepared gift. Nice to meet you. I'm Cody's older brother, Alex. A small gift from my business trip, just a little something for our first meeting. It was a fountain pen, appropriately priced and suitable for a student. Alex had heard from his mother that Ethan was a student at the university. His smile widened. The university has always been my dream, but unfortunately, I was a few points short back then. Ethan accepted the pen. Thank you. He then said, I'm sorry. I came in a hurry and didn't have time to buy a suitable gift. Next time. Don't buy anything next time. I'm a minimalist. I hate receiving gifts. Alex was all smiles. He gestured for him to come in. Playing a few more games of chess with me is the proper thing to do. You've played with my dad. His skills are simply deplorable. I've never finished a complete game with him at home. As they were talking, they entered the living room. His mother brought out the cooked dumplings. Alex was already lost in thought, staring at the chessboard. His mother shook her head with a laugh, put down the bowl and called Ethan. Ethan, you eat first. Your brother will take at least half an hour to make a move. And it was true. By the time Ethan finished his dumplings, Alex still hadn't made a move. His father had also joined the fray, sitting on the side and giving instructions. Alex glanced at him. Dad, a true gentleman watches the game in silence. His father laughed. Father and son fight together on the battlefield. Neither of us can beat Ethan alone. We have to join forces to have a chance, right, Ethan? Alex was disgusted and called his mother. Mom, take Dad to plant the flowers. His mother had changed into loose clothes and completely ignored him, calling Ethan with a smile. Don't mind those two losers. Ethan, you come with me to plant the flowers. This game of yours, believe me, they won't be able to solve it by noon. At this moment, Leo came downstairs. He was sleepy-eyed, but suddenly he saw Ethan and stopped abruptly. Why is he here? Glancing down at his loose collar, Leo's face twitched unnaturally. He turned and went back to his room to change. Go ahead, Ethan, his father said in complete agreement. This move you made is brilliant. I need to study it carefully. Alex was already deep in thought. Seeing this, Ethan went with his mother to the garden to plant the flowers. His mother was very happy. Ethan was careful and patient when planting, and he even explained as he went. His mother's face was beaming with smiles. The laughter carried through the glass, and Cody felt a little dazed. He ran his fingers through his hair and came downstairs. Seeing his father and brother huddled around the chessboard early in the morning, he asked strangely, Dad, where's Mom? His father replied casually, Your brother is here. They're in the garden planting flowers. My brother? Cody repeated. His pupils suddenly widened. Ethan was here. He ran outside. Ethan was drinking water. He saw the figure in the distance out of the corner of his eye, then looked away and put down the water bottle. He squatted down to continue transplanting the seedlings, chatting casually. "Thank you for adopting Cody back then and letting him grow up happy. Speaking of which, it was a coincidence." His mother pressed down the soil around the seedlings. "I actually wanted to adopt a girl back then. After having the eldest, I was hoping for a girl with the second pregnancy, but I had another boy. Childbirth is very hard on a woman's body, and I didn't dare to have a third child. But I love girls so much. A few years later, when I was healthier, I discussed with your uncle about adopting a little girl." Recalling the past, his mother suddenly turned her head, her face full of smiles. "But when I went to the community center, I saw you first. You have no idea how adorable you were as a child. I fell in love with you at first sight and immediately decided to adopt you." She still marveled at it now. "Unfortunately, after I had talked to the director, I couldn't find you. I thought maybe you didn't like me as your new mother and were hiding from us. I was so sad then. I didn't expect that as we were about to leave, fate let me meet Cody. You two brothers looked so much more alike when you were little than you do now." Around the corner, Cody's blood ran cold. There was a buzzing in his ears. He heard every word clearly, but he couldn't put them together. Did his mother mean he was a thief? He had stolen his brother's things. It seemed that his mother was looking in his direction. Cody subconsciously hid behind the nearby wall, his trembling body pressed against it. In the distance, the conversation continued. His mother asked curiously, "Ethan, do you have any memories of that time? What happened? Did you really not like me and hide?" Cody's heart pounded like a drum. His fingers gripped the edge of the wall, his smooth nails digging into it. Did he hide? Could it be? Did Ethan hide back then? He wanted to hear, but he was afraid to. A thought swirled in Cody's mind. He was almost certain that if Ethan had hidden, the reason would not have been that he disliked his mother. But for him, Ethan loved him. He knew that. Cody withdrew his hand, wanting to cover his ears in fear. Just then, he heard Ethan's clear voice. "I don't remember clearly." Cody's hand slowly fell, pressing against his racing heart. He closed his eyes, but a blurry image still flashed in his mind. It was two children. One was crying, "Brother, I'm so scared. I want to go home. When are we going home?" The other one was warmly hugging the crying child. "Don't be afraid. Brother will always protect you." The child was still crying, clutching his brother's clothes tightly. "A big brother told me that the family that adopted him was very mean and would hit him. He ran away on his own. Sob, sob, brother. I'm scared of pain." "You won't be." His brother wiped away his tears and snot. "Mason will meet someone very good and loving. He definitely will." Mason. Cody Mason? Cody's heart felt as if it was being squeezed by a hand, throbbing painfully. Tears streamed down his face. He didn't want this. He hated this feeling. It made it seem like Ethan had given him the opportunity to be adopted by his mom and dad. But they loved him the most. On the other side, his mother sighed. "Yes, you were both too young then. Cody waited for you until dark that day. When you didn't show up, he cried his eyes out and fainted on the way home. He had a fever for 2 days and 2 nights. I was so scared I almost had a heart attack." Recalling it now, his mother still felt a lingering fear. Such a small child, burning with fever. It broke her heart to see him. She didn't dare to leave his side for a moment, staying with him for 2 days and 2 nights. By the time Cody's fever broke, She had fallen ill herself. Seeing so many pitiful children at the community center, and with Cody getting so sick on his first day home, I vowed that since he had lost his parents, I, as his new mother, would love him countless times more. After pressing down the soil, his mother patted the dirt off her palms and remembered another amusing incident. For this, Leo even threw a tantrum once, crying and accusing me of only loving Cody and not caring about him. He ran away from home, stayed in a hotel, and said he wouldn't care if he died outside. Later, Cody would run to his school after school every day. He wouldn't pay attention to him. This went on for about a month. One day, Cody was being bullied by some kids, and he rushed in and fought with them. He came home with a bloody face, carrying Cody on his back. After that, he was better to Cody than anyone else. This was the first time Cody had heard this story. He had long forgotten it. A thought uncontrollably popped into his head. If his parents had adopted Ethan, would Leo have been good to him from the beginning? Probably not. Leo was so good to him. How could he be good to someone else? Cody tightly covered his ears, but he could still hear Ethan's voice. Meeting you was Cody's good fortune. Shut up. Don't say any more. He didn't want to hear it anymore. Cody bit his lips. A moment later, his ability to cope reached its limit. He wiped his eyes haphazardly and ran away. Hearing a faint noise, his mother looked towards the wall but saw nothing. The few seedlings were planted. Her hands were dirty, so she stood up and said, "Let's go inside and wash. The water outside is freezing." Ethan's peripheral vision caught Cody's retreating figure. He brushed the dirt off his fingertips. After washing his hands and returning to the living room, Alex and his father were indeed still studying the chessboard. His mother said with a smile, "I wasn't wrong, was I? Playing chess with those two is enough to drive you crazy." Ethan smiled. "It's all right. I've encountered opponents who take 2 days." His mother was surprised. "That long? Mom?" Someone suddenly called her. His mother stopped and looked towards the stairwell. Leo had just come downstairs. His mother asked, "Are you going out?" Leo quickly glanced at Ethan before casually walking downstairs. No. He had changed into a suit and had even styled his hair. His mother was puzzled. "Why dress up if you're not going out?" She didn't ask further. "You're just getting up now. It's almost lunchtime. If you're hungry, have some snacks to tide you over." In the kitchen, the chef who had been hired for the family dinner was already busy. Leo walked into the living room. The coffee table was laden with nuts, candies, and crackers. Leo casually grabbed a packet of crackers, opened it, and munched on them, his gaze constantly drifting towards Ethan. Since he had come in, Ethan had not looked at him once, his attention focused on the chessboard. But just a moment ago, he had been talking to his mother. Leo was extremely annoyed. He crunched down hard on the cracker in his mouth. Some more time passed. Alex finally had an idea. The chess piece he had been holding in his palm finally landed on the board. He looked up at Ethan. Before he could feel any joy, Ethan, as if having anticipated his move, picked up a piece and placed it on the board with a crisp sound. "Good." His father clapped his hands repeatedly. "Ethan, that was a brilliant move. Alex has no more tricks up his sleeve." Alex stared intently at the board. A few minutes later, he pushed up his glasses and shook his head with a smile. "I lose." He started picking up the pieces. "Let's play another round." Leo didn't understand Go. His gaze fell on Ethan's face, and he lazily chewed his cracker. Is he really that good? His father glanced at him sideways. "I tried to teach you before, but you wouldn't learn, only caring about video games. Now you can't even understand a game of chess. What do you know?" Ethan is a master among amateurs. Leo thought of the time at the bar. He had actually lost to Ethan at dice. Even though he had won the second time, he had a nagging feeling that Ethan had let him win on purpose. It was that feeling of Ethan being in control of the whole situation. He was really annoyed. He watched the second game between Ethan and Alex intently. It was over again. Suddenly, his mother let out a "Huh? Is Cody not up yet?" Leo suddenly came back to his senses. That's right. Why wasn't Cody here? He was quite fond of his biological brother. He was about to go upstairs to wake Cody up when his father said, "He was up early. Did he go out to play?" His mother tapped him on the forehead. "Ethan is here for dinner today. Why would he go out to play?" His mother picked up her phone and dialed Cody's number. The phone vibrated in his palm. A total of 48 minutes. Cody stood not far from the living room French windows, witnessing the harmonious scene between the Reed family and Ethan. It took them 48 minutes to think of looking for him. Cody's eyes welled up with grievance again. He forcefully turned off his phone and walked away. If they didn't care about him, then they shouldn't look for him. Cody stuffed his phone back into his pocket, ducked his head, and ran to the garage, stepping on the gas and speeding away. His mother couldn't get through. She dialed again and walked towards the stairs. "I'll go upstairs and check." Ethan placed a chess piece, his expression calm. He knew where Cody was. Whenever Cody felt wronged, the first person he thought of was Julian. But Julian was not at the Vance family's main residence right now. 10 minutes ago, Julian had posted on his social media for the first time ever. The picture was of the Haworthia, placed on his office desk. Cody drove aimlessly. When he finally stopped and lowered the window, he was at the Vance family's ancestral home. Uncle Julian. Cody suddenly felt even more wronged. He gripped the steering wheel, wishing he could throw himself into Julian's arms and cry his heart out. He missed Julian so much. He got out of the car and ran to the gate, frantically ringing the doorbell. He couldn't wait to see Julian. Soon, a servant answered the intercom. "Hello, who is it?" Cody sniffled. "I'm Cody Reed from the Reed family. I'm looking for Uncle Julian. Mr. Vance is not here." Cody was stunned. Where did he go? The servant did not know Julian's whereabouts and wouldn't have told a stranger even if she did. She said with a smile, "I'm sorry, I don't know." Cody asked again, "When will he be back?" "I'm not sure either." Cody was extremely dejected. He understood that with Julian's status, he would have many social engagements during the new year. After sitting in his car in a daze for a while, Cody reversed and drove away. Now he could only go and find him. His mother didn't find Cody in his room. She searched the second floor again but still couldn't find him. She came downstairs, puzzled. Could he have really gone out to play? She looked at Ethan and sighed softly. It was really embarrassing to let Ethan know. She went into the storage room, closed the door, and made a call. The other end answered quickly. "Auntie Reed." "Miles," his mother said with a smile. "Is Cody with you?" Miles was about to speak when the garden gate slowly opened. Car drove in. He changed his words. "Yes, he is. Is something wrong? He really went out to play. How could this child be so thoughtless towards Ethan?" His mother sighed inwardly. "It's nothing. I was just asking. Be safe while you're out." Miles replied, "Don't worry. I'll take care of him." His mother finally hung up, relieved. When she came out, she made an excuse. It seems Miles has something to do and asked Cody to go over. They'll be back when they're done. The Reed family all knew Miles. His mother explained to Ethan alone, he's Cody's high school classmate, and like you, he's also a university student. I just don't know which department. Leo scoffed, biology. He then stared at Ethan. Ethan had said he was transferring to the biology department this semester. He didn't know if he had succeeded. Ethan smiled. It's all right. Business is more important. His mother's heart softened. This child was so well raised. She sat down next to Ethan and said with a smile, "Next time we have a get-together, invite your parents over. We're all relatives now, so we should get to know each other." Ethan said frankly, "I've cut ties with them." At these words, the entire Reed family looked at him. Cut ties? Ethan smiled faintly. They adopted me because they couldn't have children, but they had their own the following year. He stopped there, but they all understood. His mother looked at Ethan's thin face. She had previously thought it was because his family was not well off and he wasn't getting enough nutrition. Now, hearing about this relationship, she suddenly understood. He had been abused. They only loved their own biological child. Why adopt a child then? So irresponsible. His mother was very angry. At the same time, she felt very sorry for Ethan. She patted his arm. "Come to our house often from now on. We are your family." His father also chimed in, "Yes, yes." Alex didn't say anything, just gave Ethan an encouraging smile. Only Leo looked at Ethan with a complicated expression. So Ethan's living environment was that bad. No wonder he worked at a bar, and his gaze fell on Ethan's hands again. Rough like the hands of a 30-something worker. Were they all calloused from working to earn money? And on New Year's Eve, Ethan hadn't had dinner with his estranged adoptive family. Did he spend the holiday alone? Did Cody know about this? Leo was lost in thought. The lunch was sumptuous. Cody still hadn't returned after they finished eating. Ethan was about to take his leave. Of course, his mother wouldn't allow it. "He'll definitely be back tonight. You should stay here tonight. The room is all ready for you." Leo glanced at Ethan. Before Ethan could speak, Alex said, "I'm too full. I don't feel like playing chess. Let's play some video games." Leo has a lot of classic out-of-print game discs, and he's even set up a game room on the second floor. It's really fun. Ethan politely explained, "I've never played video games. I don't know how." Leo finally found his chance. "Is it that you don't know how, or are you too scared to play because you're bad at it?" Alex laughed a few times. "Playing games is just for fun. Winning or losing doesn't matter. Let's go, let's go." He stood up and pulled Ethan's arm upstairs. "Young people should play more games. When you're my age, you won't even have the energy to play." This time, Ethan did not refuse. Leo felt his blood boil. The opportunity for revenge had come. He had never lost a game to anyone. He would see how he would crush Ethan today. He quickly followed them. The game room was at the far end of the right-hand corridor on the second floor. Pushing open the door, the first thing that came into view were several dance machines and a row of different classic arcade machines. 5 LCD TVs for gaming were mounted on the wall. The game room was about 1,000 square feet. Ethan had never seen these things before. His gaze swept over them. On the left wall were 2 out-of-place capsule toy machines and a claw machine full of dolls. When Leo came in, he saw Ethan looking at the capsule toy and claw machines. He coughed loudly, his fist against his mouth, his voice a little shaky. "Those are for Cody to play with." However, Ethan had no reaction. He walked over to Alex's side. Leo's expression stiffened slightly. He snorted disdainfully under his breath. Alex was squatting, opening the cabinet below the LCD TV. The 10-foot-long drawer was filled with a dazzling array of game discs. Thinking that Ethan had never played games before, Alex wanted to find a game that was easy to pick up. But he rarely played games, so he called out to Leo as he searched. "Leo, Recommend a 3-person versus game that's easy to learn. Leo leaned against the TV wall, his arms crossed, his gaze fixed on Ethan's back. He snorted a few times. Who plays easy versus games? If you want easy, go play with Cody's claw machine. Alex frowned slightly. His younger brother was usually not like this. Why was he so prickly today, always speaking in a sarcastic tone? Just as he was about to scold him, Ethan pointed at a game disc. How about this one? Leo craned his neck to see. Alex pulled it out directly. It was called Death Forest, a multiplayer versus game from a long time ago, popular when he was in elementary school. The story was very simple. A group of mercenaries from different factions fighting in a deadly forest, grabbing equipment and health packs, dealing with enemies, and eliminating teammates. The sole survivor who collected all the supplies could escape the forest. Leo also saw the game disc, Death Forest. This game's controls were 5-star difficulty. It was one of his favorite games. Cody had played with him a few times and had been crushed by him every time, crying. Later, he had refused to play out of spite. There was nothing he could do. A brother was a brother, but a game was a game. He would not go easy. Cody, who had been exposed to games from a young age and was decent at most of them, didn't dare to play Death Forest with him anymore. What was a gaming novice like Ethan going to do? Leo, for once, kindly reminded him, you'd better pick another one. If you play this one, I'm not responsible if you lose and cry. Alex also felt that Death Forest was not suitable for a beginner. The best he had ever done in this game was when there were many players, and he had teamed up with Leo to eliminate the other side, only to be headshot by Leo in the end. Playing against Leo was no fun at all, although Death Forest was indeed exciting. Alex was about to put it back. How about Crazy Racing? It's also very exciting. Ethan's lips curled into a faint smile. Let's go with this one. The game disc was put into the console, and 3 LCD TVs were turned on. Alex sat cross-legged in the middle, with Ethan and Leo on his left and right. The warm floor was covered with a soft rug, and there were several low tables. His mother brought in a few plates of freshly cut fruit, snacks, and freshly squeezed vegetable juice. Leo complained, seriously, vegetable juice? I want a Coke. He was sitting cross-legged. His mother lightly tapped his head. Drink less Coke. Vegetable juice is healthy. Leo grumbled, it's healthy, but it doesn't taste good. His mother smiled and asked Ethan, what do you want for dinner? I'll tell the chef on my way downstairs. Leo sneered inwardly. A good student like Ethan, who always put on a good front, would definitely say he wasn't picky. But the young man's voice was clear and bright. Can we have pineapple and shrimp fritters? Leo was speechless. He picked up the vegetable juice and took a big, unhappy gulp. His mother smiled. Of course we can. We have both shrimp and pineapple. She helped them draw the curtains. Only 2 low wattage lamps on the wall were on, creating a great atmosphere for a dark night game. She went back to the door to close it. You guys have fun. I'll call you when dinner is ready. The screen showed the background story. A few minutes later, it jumped to character selection. There were only 3 of them, so they usually chose 3 different factions. Leo popped a piece of candy into his mouth and chose the faction with the most difficult controls. He glanced over Alex at Ethan. He could only see Ethan's side profile. Ethan had a cold temperament, which made many people overlook the fact that his facial contours were extremely sharp, especially his jawline, which was like a slanted straight line. The dim light fell on his long, thick eyelashes, giving the impression that he was seriously fighting on a battlefield. Leo casually sucked on his candy and suddenly said, I'll give you a handicap. You 2 can team up against me. Alex, adjusting his controller, retorted, Don't be so arrogant. I'll take you down one-on-one today." Leo didn't reply. He was waiting for Ethan's answer. Ethan didn't reply, but on the screen, he had chosen a different faction from Alex. Crack. The candy instantly shattered. Leo chewed the candy heavily. He decided to teach Ethan a good lesson today. Biting off more than you can chew also depends on the occasion. After the three of them had chosen their characters, they entered the story. The main perspective on the three screens was connected to the controllers. It was Ethan's first time playing, but the controller's layout was simple, and he got the hang of it after a little practice. Soon, a few minutes into the game, he was headshot by Leo. Leo glanced at him. There was still a bit of candy left in his mouth, which he chewed slowly. "I told you to team up." Alex turned to Ethan and said, "It's okay. You're not bad. The first time I played, I couldn't even walk straight. The first round is for getting used to it. You'll get better after a few more tries." Ethan smiled. Alex was soon ambushed from behind by Leo and shot down. The game restarted. Leo was already tired of it, but today he was playing with great enthusiasm, targeting Ethan for headshots. It was so obvious that even Alex noticed. He secretly kicked him and gave him a look. "Don't go too far." Leo pretended not to see. It wasn't that he hadn't given him a chance. He had let Ethan team up in the first round, but he had insisted on being a hero. Then he should be prepared to be crushed. A few more rounds went like this. Alex was also getting frustrated, getting killed by Leo every time he was just getting into the game. It was no fun at all. "I give up. Let's play another game." After dying once more, the screen immediately sounded another "ah," the sound effect for a player's death. Alex wasn't looking at the screen and thought Ethan had also died. He turned his head and said, "Ethan, why don't we?" His voice trailed off. His gaze shifted to the screen. The character in camouflage was still standing. This was Ethan's screen. He wasn't down. Then the one who was down was. Alex exclaimed in surprise, "You beat Leo." Ethan held the controller, his face slightly turned, and said calmly, "I got lucky." Indeed, just now, when Leo killed him, he had also revealed his position. But this was the first time someone had taken down Leo. Alex immediately gave him a thumbs up. "It's lucky, but it's also good. Right, Leo?" He turned to ask Leo. The faint light from the screen fell on Leo's face. He stared at the fallen character in front of him in disbelief, his eyes twitching slightly. Bullshit. It wasn't luck at all. He had found a hiding spot before taking down Alex. He had also been using the camera angle to his advantage. The only chance to take him down was the split second he was hiding. It was clear that Ethan had predicted his movement and timed his long-range shot perfectly, taking him down directly. Leo immediately turned to look at Ethan. Ethan was drinking water. Even drinking water, he was so calm. There was a sense of him being in control of everything. It was this very look, the one he hated the most. It was this look of disdain from Ethan. It was the same at the bar when they were playing dice, and on the sidewalk that morning when he had threatened him. And a thought that made him even angrier popped into his head. In the previous rounds, had Ethan deliberately let him get headshots to analyze his moves, using him as an experience pack? Leo gritted his teeth. Again. This time, he was the one who demanded it. Ethan's face was calm. He put down the water bottle, picked up the controller, and turned to the screen. This time, Leo was no longer fooling around. He focused on the screen, his hands flying on the controller. Alex was the first to go down. He watched the battle with great interest, exclaiming from time to time. Needless to say about Leo, Ethan's movement was not like a novice at all. Every time it seemed like he was about to be taken down by Leo, he would manage to duck into a blind spot behind cover. It was as if he was deliberately exposing his position to bait Leo into attacking, to deplete Leo's ammunition. This kind of tactic was high risk, high reward, and required great player skill. Even Leo, when facing a master, would play it safe and rarely dared to be so reckless. Alex looked at Leo again and was stunned. Leo's expression was focused, his facial muscles tense. It was the first time he had seen him so serious while playing a game. Or perhaps he was being forced to be so serious? Ethan was also focused on the screen. From the game's background story, he had found the key to the game: movement. So in the first few rounds, he hadn't been busy dodging opponents or getting used to the controls, but memorizing every hiding spot, every supply point. He had memorized the map, and he had gotten used to the controls. It was simpler than he had imagined. Leo's skills were indeed impressive, but he had a fatal flaw he had never lost. He couldn't afford to lose. Losing once made him desperate to get a quick revenge, which in turn made him full of openings. It was Ethan's first time playing, and in terms of skill, he was far behind Leo. But he had patience. He used his knowledge of the map to drag out the game with Leo. The more anxious Leo got, the more openings he revealed. And he only needed to seize the key opening. A glint of light flashed in Ethan's eyes. He decisively pressed the controller, descended from the shadows of the trees where he was hiding, and pressed the gun to the back of the unsuspecting person's head. Bang! Ah! With two sounds, the character was headshot and fell to the ground. Game over. All three LCD TVs simultaneously displayed the winner. Why? Ethan's character ID. The 4-hour one-on-one battle was over. Leo's eyes were red. At the same time, the door to the game room opened, and his mother poked her head in. "Kids, dinner's ready." Before going downstairs, Ethan took out his phone. There were 32 missed calls from Liam. Cody still hadn't come back for dinner. Everyone tacitly avoided the topic. After dinner, Ethan played 2 more games of chess with his father and then took his leave again. His mother held on to him, not letting him go. "You promised to stay here tonight. Besides, Cody will definitely be back in a little while." Alex smiled and tried to persuade his mother. "Ethan probably has things to do. It's the same place, not far away. Are you afraid he won't come back next time?" Ethan politely explained, "I'm changing my major next semester, so I have a lot of material to catch up on. I also need to get my driver's license before school starts. After this busy period, I'll come and visit you whenever I have time." His mother's attention was immediately diverted. She was happy for Ethan. "You succeeded in changing your major? That's great." His father and Alex also admired Ethan more and more. They continued to talk for a while. His mother finally agreed to let Ethan go home and told Alex to drive him. "The driver is on holiday for the new year. I'll drive." Suddenly, Leo, who hadn't spoken since the game, spoke up. He walked straight to the entrance, took his coat, and changed his shoes. Big brother's eyesight is not good for driving at night. His mother had no objection. She had thought Leo would be unwilling to drive someone at night, so she hadn't mentioned it. Now that Leo had offered, it was for the best. "Drive slowly on the road. Don't run any red lights." As she saw them off, his mother repeatedly reminded him. Leo's ears were ringing. "I know." His mother went around to the passenger side. The window was down. His mother smiled and handed Ethan a red envelope, saying, "First, all 3 brothers have one. If you refuse, I'll pull out those flower seedlings and give them back to you." Ethan's eyes curved slightly as he accepted the red envelope. "Thank you, Auntie. Good boy." His mother patted his hand. She said again, "Come and visit whenever you have time." Ethan agreed. His mother reluctantly stepped back and watched the car drive out of the gate before going back inside. In the car, Leo gripped the steering wheel. He wanted to ask Ethan if he had really never played games before. Was he kidding him? It was the first time he had lost a game, and the first time he had been killed twice in a row. He opened his mouth several times but couldn't bring himself to say it. He was extremely frustrated. He reached out and turned on the music. It was a rock song. The atmosphere finally became less awkward. Leo secretly breathed a sigh of relief. Suddenly, Ethan spoke. "Stop at the intersection ahead." Leo didn't hear clearly. "What?" "Stop at the intersection ahead." Leo frowned. "What do you mean?" Ethan's voice was calm. "You hate me, I despise you. We're in the same car just for your mother's sake." A breath caught in Leo's chest. He glanced at Ethan, turned the steering wheel, and abruptly stopped at the intersection ahead, as if he was happy to drive him. Ethan unbuckled his seatbelt. "Thank you." He opened the door, got out, and walked along the main road. Leo was so stung by his thank you that his heart ached. He slammed his fist on the steering wheel. Damn it! A little while later, he looked up and stared at the figure walking further and further away. Ethan walked to the main road and waited for a while. Finally, a taxi came. After giving the address, Ethan took out his phone. It was 10:30. His eyes flickered, and he logged into his Messenger app. Meanwhile, Julian was still at work. The office was brightly lit, and there were still stacks of documents. But he wasn't working. He was staring at his social media feed. His first ever post. A row of avatars had liked it. A friend named Charlie had even spammed the comments. Did our Mr. Vance get hacked? What is this? A flower? A lotus? A lotus flower? Julian, is that really you? Holy cow. Our big brother Julian really posted on social media? Is it the end of the world tomorrow? I have to take a screenshot to commemorate this. After more than 10 years, the first post. Guys, the first post. Another friend, Jason, commented, "Charlie, stop going crazy." But he couldn't help but add, "The background is Julian's office. When did Julian start raising succulents?" Charlie replied to Jason, "What's a succulent?" Jason replied to Charlie, "Google it." Charlie replied to Jason, "I did. Is our Mr. Vance going to start doing environmental charity work now?" Julian did not reply. A moment later, his fingertip touched the screen and exited the page. At the same time, he noticed a red circle with a 1 on it. His Adam's apple bobbed slightly. Julian opened his social media again. A default avatar, named 52 Hertz, had liked the post. The timestamp was a few minutes ago. Julian stared at the default avatar for about 5 minutes or maybe 10. He turned off the screen, pulled out his chair, and stood up. Without changing his clothes, he went into the break room and took out a long black down jacket, a custom-made one that could withstand temperatures of 30 degrees below zero. He took the elevator to the parking garage. The trunk was full of fishing gear. He drove to a private lake. It was late at night and the lake was quiet. The temperature had risen in the past 2 days, and only a few large, unmelted pieces of ice floated on the surface. On the night of the 3rd day of the new year, only a single light was on. Julian had only set up a chair and 1 fishing rod. A blurry reflection was motionless in the water. In the empty valley, it was so quiet that even the wind seemed to have stopped. But his heart could not be still. Time passed gradually, and a creamy glow appeared on the horizon. The float finally moved, but Julian did not pull the rod. His dark eyes were distant, staring at the violently shaking float. Only when it was quiet again did he lift the rod. The fish, of course, was gone. The bait was also gone. At 7 o'clock, Julian packed up his rod and went back to the parking lot. He had been up all night, but he showed no signs of fatigue. He often worked late and traveled for business, so 2 or 3 hours of sleep a day was enough for him. He drove back to the city. He didn't go to the company or the old mansion. He went to the large apartment where Ethan had stayed. It was the same as the night he had left. Nothing had been added, nothing was missing. Julian changed into slippers and first went to the bathroom to take a shower. He came out wearing a bathrobe and then went to the kitchen to cook an egg and heat 2 slices of bacon and bread. When he opened the refrigerator to get water, his gaze swept over the unopened boxes of blueberries. He didn't like sweets. The amount of fruit he ate in a year could be counted on 2 hands. He looked at them for a moment, then took out a box of blueberries, washed them, and brought them to the living room. Eating alone, the dining room was very quiet. He remembered the last time he had sat here for a meal. Ethan had been sitting opposite him. The simplest egg noodles he had ever eaten were also the most delicious. After a brief moment of distraction, Julian cleared the dishes and went into the kitchen to wash them. His hair was almost dry. On his way back to the bedroom, he passed the guest room and stopped. He turned the doorknob. The door opened. The freshly washed bedding gave off the scent of laundry detergent and was neatly made. The curtains were tied back with 2 exquisite lucky knots. Just then, his assistant called. The opening day of the amusement park was set for the 15th day of the first lunar month, the Lantern Festival. In addition to the daytime opening activities, Julian had asked the planning department to come up with several evening activity proposals. The planning department had only submitted them the day before the holiday, and they were not very creative. They were the same light shows and fireworks shows that other amusement parks had. There were only about 10 days left until the 15th. Julian still hadn't decided on a plan, so his assistant was calling to check on the situation. Julian looked at the lucky knots. He had a plan. Release sky lanterns. Releasing sky lanterns on the Lantern Festival was a custom, but connecting it with an amusement park still made the assistant pause for a few seconds. After hanging up, he slowly savored the idea and realized it was a brilliant plan. The guests invited to the opening were children from community centers across the country. Light shows and fireworks shows were certainly dreamlike, but allowing them to write down their wishes and release them into the sky to pray for blessings was more meaningful. However, releasing sky lanterns required reporting and recycling work. The cost was several times higher than that of light shows and fireworks. The amusement park was not one of the Vance Corporation's key projects. It was surprising that their Mr. Vance was investing so much in it. At 6 in the morning, Ethan woke up on time. After the 7-day New Year holiday, the DMV would be open and he could register for the written test. He wasn't going to a driving school. He now had nearly $10,000 in savings and could buy a decent used car for about $5,000. He knew of an empty, deserted place suitable for practicing driving. He could get his license in about 45 days. With a car, it would be convenient for fishing and for him to send Ms. Jacobs away. If his deduction was correct, Ms. Jacobs was currently being held by Liam at the resort villa. In the original story, he had been locked in the resort villa for 3 years. He was familiar with every room, every piece of furniture. Liam loved Ms. Jacobs and craved a mother's love, but he used extreme methods to try to keep her. This was precisely what Ms. Jacobs could not accept. A canary whose wings had once been broken would not be willing to return to another gilded cage after experiencing more than a decade of freedom and dreams. She had ideals, love, and a wider world to explore. Now he just had to wait. Wait for the moment Ms. Jacobs wanted to escape her cage. Ethan calmly watched the fried egg in the pan, sizzling and fragrant. He turned off the heat, placed the egg on top of the clear noodle soup, and sprinkled a few green scallions on top. A simple egg noodle soup was ready. Ethan stood in the kitchen and quickly finished his breakfast. Then he went back to his room to study for the written test. After a quick review, Ethan picked up his phone. After the 32 missed calls yesterday, Liam hadn't called again. Given his style, if he wasn't tied up with something, he would have come looking for him and thrown a fit long ago. Ethan remembered that at this point in time, Christopher Vance had been hospitalized. At Keith Conley Hospital, the top private hospital in the capital. Julian had also gone. In the original story, Liam had told Cody about this. Cody had run to the hospital hoping to accidentally run into Julian, but Julian had only stayed for a short time and left. It had then turned into a situation where Liam and Cody were alone. The last time Cody said he wanted to return something to Liam, nothing had come of it. Cody must have returned it. He was angry and had returned things to Liam, and they had had falling outs more than once. But if the two of them had met, given their emotional state at the time, it couldn't have been a peaceful encounter. It was highly likely that Cody had returned the items but hadn't seen Liam. Ethan's eyes narrowed slightly. He dialed Cody's number. Cody had been up all night, hugging his knees and staring out the window.